I may have mentioned once or twice that I have a very messy garage, full of a lot of garbage. Okay, maybe not garbage. It's full of a lot of stuff. Little by little, I've been trying to clean it up. We've only been here 3 years. Just give me time, all right? Anyhow, so one of the things that I wanted to do was put up a hose reel so that I don't have my air hose bopping all over the place out here. So I went and I got one. Now, I didn't say I got a good one, okay? I went down to the local Harbor Freight and I picked one up. When I had my shop, I used one of these for 8 years. It wasn't the Merlin, but comparable, almost identical except for the name. Never had a problem with it. You know, the only thing that can really go wrong with it is the air fitting that goes into the side or the spring in it. So I'm going to go ahead and hang this one up on my wall. If I really get squirrely, I can always replace the hose. Yeah, it's all rebuildable, so it's really not a big deal. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this one up and start getting rid of some of my air hose mess, because that helps. As I'm setting up my next video about putting in my air hose reel, I realized I could use air to blow this sawdust off of here and have a space to work. I'll get to it. Some of you are going to notice as I'm doing this that I have a 4x4 on my lathe. That's for a wife's desk leg video that I've got coming up. I just wanted to share that for the people that didn't notice. Look, it's here. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do, I got a couple of leg bolts. I have my hose reel. My hose reel has holes in the bottom of it. Those holes are going to be wonderful once they're put into this, because you notice that those 4 holes don't line up with a single stud. And since I'm dealing with a single stud, since I want to put this on the ceiling all the way over on that side of the garage, I need something to attach it to that's solid that I can then take and screw into a single stud and make it work. So this is it. Okay, so my board is a little bit wider, not quite as far this way. This is a piece of 5/8 ply, cabinet grade actually. The reason I wanted to use this is I want to have plenty of strength. When you're sitting here yanking on the hose, getting it in and out of this reel and pulling it in every direction, you want a good solid base for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 4 leg bolts that are just long enough to get through, secure this to this piece of 3/4 inch ply, and then I'm just going to use, I haven't decided yet. I'm either going to use leg bolts to attach it or I'm going to use wood screws to attach it. Wood screws will give me plenty of strength to connect it to a single rafter to hold this in place. So the first thing that I need to do is to mark where my holes are going to go for my leg bolts to go into my mounting board. So I grab that. I grab my trusty pencil that I know where it is for a change. I'm using a drill bit that is significantly smaller than the leg bolts shank. Now, you want to make sure that when you're pre-drilling holes, you have a little bit of bite on the lowest portion in the threads here. That'll give you a little bit of compression on the wood and give you a stronger bolting to the wood. Since we're using leg bolts rather than wood screws, we definitely need to pre-drill. This doesn't have to be fancy. It's in my garage. Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you're thinking. Jeff, you've got a drill press right there. Why don't you use it? Because it was a whole lot quicker and easier to use the hand drill, and I don't need to be perfectly square with these. Having been a mechanic by trade, kind of, yes, I'm going to use power tools, because that's just what I do. So this one, I've got slots on one side of this mounting bracket. So what I'm doing, hope I didn't blow anyone's speakers up. Setting these bolts in here, hopefully at about the right point where I can still slide this in here easily. Yeah, see, it's a little bit too deep. Test fitting is a good thing. Okay, so we threaded those in and out. I got myself a couple of washers, 4 of them. And then I'm going to take and put these back in again. Since I know about how deep I want them to be. Okay. Okay, and while this is actually up on the ceiling, I will be using a wrench to get them right. There we go. Alright. When it's hanging from the ceiling, these washers will hang down. It'll make it a lot easier. But I'll be able to slide those into the slots, and that'll make it a lot easier for me to hold it in place while I put the other 2 bolts in to hold it up. I love my 9-foot ceilings. I really do. Ignore the wires. So what I want to do is, close to this light fixture on the right, I'm going to install my reel there, and then the compressor is going to sit down below it with a hose going into the side of it. Simple, out of the way, and it'll get to everywhere I need it to get. Okay, since I want the hose reel to go right in that area of the ceiling, I get to go upstairs through that hole and figure out exactly which stud I'm going to connect to right there. Once I get my board screwed up there, then I'll be able to slide my reel into the 2 leg bolts that are already in place and then add the other 2. Okay, prepping the board to go up across the top is very easy. All I'm going to do is take my speed square. I'm going to make a mark that's pretty close to center. And I'm really not worried about having a line up there, but even so, I'm going to make the line pretty light and fairly square. Okay, so that way it's not really obvious from the top. And then the next thing that I have is a drill bit that's slightly larger than the wood screws that I'm going to be using. That way when I tighten them up, it'll actually pull the board tight up against the ceiling. Okay, holes are done. What I did was I toenailed them all, so they're all in at an angle. There we go. So they're all in at an angle, about the same angle. Whole idea being a little extra strength to hold it up against the ceiling. Okay, this is the part where either Jeff successfully puts this up there, or we have a good blooper. Well, maybe not so good. We'll see. I'm kind of old for bloopers like this, but we're going to give it a shot. Wish me luck. Okay, so far so good. All right. And then here is our hose. Hey, we even have enough spring in it. Okay, we can adjust the length of the tail later. Now the input for the air is on the opposite side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a hose that I never use. Well, the only time it's used is when it's hooked up to my laser. And I'm going to hook that up to that. That'll be my air source. Okay, the other side had sealant, this side doesn't. So I'm going to real quick here throw on some Teflon tape. Okay, now the proper way to do that, you're going to thread it in this direction. So you want the tail to face the other way so it doesn't unwind. So the proper way to do it is as if you were tightening on a bolt. Well, I suppose in this case a nut, huh? Okay, Teflon tape is more of a lubricant to make it easier to tighten things down than it is a sealant. So you don't need much. Some say 2, some say 3. I generally like to go with about 3, give or take. When it's assembled properly, it doesn't have to be precise. So, all I'm doing is putting on my chuck. So, this one is super easy. Well, if you put the stuff where you want it anyway. So the idea is just tighten that on. And then, when it's tight, you're good to go. We can give her a test. Welcome to the truly messy corner. For a test, all I'm going to do is leave that just like that. I'm going to put some pressure to it. We're going to wait for the compressor to turn off. Okay. Make sure it's got full pressure to it. In. Don't hear or feel any leaks, and the same thing from up above. So now we get to grab a air fitting and put it on there and see if it works. It's going to work. I don't need to show you that. So there you have it, the quick and dirty installation of a hose reel in the ceiling. That board will hold it up there, no problem at all. It's it looks funny because of the angles of the lights, but yeah, who cares? It's a garage. Anyhow, so yes, the Harbor Freight Merlin hose reel mounted to the ceiling. I do like my quality tools, but for something like this, you know, it's worth a couple of dollars to go and pick this up. I've never had a failure with them. The hardest thing about doing videos like this is remembering that there's people on the other side of the camera. You're talking to those people, not to the camera. I'm trying to work on that, trying to get better about it. I'm trying to not have as many pauses, not as much dead air, and I'm trying not to look off to the sides quite so much as I used to. Hopefully it comes through. Hopefully you can appreciate it a little bit. As always, like, comment, subscribe. I'm just doing stuff.